Everybody says they have the greatest father, and I believe that's a very true thing.
Yeah.
I would say that I had the greatest father. And I think it all comes down to how much time and effort a parent puts into bringing their children up. In the early days, my father was very, very busy just setting up his business in the late 70s, early 80s. So we really got to see him, really. It's only on weekends. He used to just have Saturdays off. So we spent a lot of time with him on Saturdays, and he would do anything to make sure that he gives time to children.
How did that feel when you first heard the news?
It was probably some of the darkest moments of my life, I would say. When they say to you that when your father's alive, that roof is over your head?
Yeah.
You literally feel that roof blown away as soon as that happens. My father's a very fit man, a very active man. And when he contracted the virus, because he was so positive, and he was strong, and he was fit, we thought he'll be fine. He said, look, I don't feel very well, so just let me be. I'll stay at home. Don't come and visit me. I don't want nobody getting ill. And stayed home for a week. And Saturday morning, he phoned up. He said, I feel a lot better today. I feel a lot better. It can be detrimental to the child himself, myself.
Yeah.
I could have turned out completely different.
You could have been absolutely spoiled.
Absolutely. And I've seen people out there like that. And generally, I've seen people like that. And I think, what the hell have you learned from your parents? Why you've got all this success behind you, but look at the state of you, how you are as a person.
Yeah.
No humbleness, no nothing. I'm the big man. I can do what I want, but with no substance behind it.
Folks, welcome to Fitpod, a very, very special episode today. In the studio with me is Amer Awan, a passionate advocate for his father's legacy. He will be sharing the powerful story of late Uncle Nazir Awan, a respected figure known for his impactful contributions to the community. As Amer reflects on his father's values and achievements, he'll offer a unique personal perspective on how late Uncle Nazir's work contributes and influences both their family and society. With a deep sense of pride, Amer is not only honoring his father's memory, but also sharing the lessons that shaped his own journey, making this decision both a tribute and a look into enduring power of legacy. So please welcome Amer Awan. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Nasser. It's great to be here. Wonderful setup. We've been planning to do this since December, right? Christmas Day, I think it was.
Yes,
we originally planned to do it for.
Yeah, we were.
But mid-February now, we're here. Finally getting it done.
We're getting there.
You're a busy guy. You've been interviewing a lot of people, so you're doing well. So it's nice to see this
it's been coming along. Since I've had my backbone Zishan sitting in the back. I always like to kind of plug him in. Of course, things have really picked up.
Excellent.
And I think I had this spark to do a tribute episode for your father, because everyone in business I've met have always spoke very, very highly of your father. So, and I was thinking, okay, maybe people who know him as a businessman may not know him as a family man, and what goes behind closed doors, and when he's not in the business mind, how was he like, then at home? And that's a very important perspective I wanted to share, because yes, everyone's great when they're meeting people. But my main question, and my first question is, what was he like as a father?
I think it's very difficult to summarize that in very short words, but everybody says they have the greatest father, and I believe that's a very true thing.
Yeah.
I would say that I had the greatest father. And I think it all comes down to how much time and effort a parent puts into bringing their children up. In the early days, my father was very, very busy just setting up his business in the late 70s, early 80s. So we really got to see him, really. It's only on weekends. He used to just have Saturdays off. So we spent a lot of time with him on Saturdays, and he would do anything to make sure that he gives time to children. And because it was so early, and business was just starting, so naturally people sacrifice a lot of their family time, a lot of their own time, and putting everything into business. And that's exactly what he was doing at the time. Fast forward now 10, 15 years, and the business has now developed. His mindset had completely changed. I mean, what he was like in business then is what he was like at home, because he lived by core values, whether implying that into family or into business or into community. So when you see him, that's exactly what he was. What you see is what you get with my father. He was exactly the same with everybody. And I think that's why he has such a great rapport with people, has such a great, a sense of kind of when he's talked to somebody, he's left something behind, because that's the kind of person he was. He would sit with, the older generation. He would sit with people, as young as, 12, 13, 14, who had aspirations, talking to them, to young children. So he gave time to absolutely everybody. I think that was one of his greatest, you could say, not so much values, but a kind of the personality that he was. He would sit with anybody and everybody.
See, when he was setting up his business, was there a time where you think, Dad, okay, enough now, we need more time, rather than just having one Saturday? Did you have those discussions with him and say to him, look, we want more time. Can you come here? Let's go do this. Let's do that.
Do you know, at the time, I was probably only 6 or 7 then. So I didn't know any better. I thought this is what a father did. Naturally, fathers were working, 70s, 80s were very tough times as well.
Yeah.
I remember, we lived in a 3-bedroom house at the time. I remember when we moved into a 3-bedroom house, we didn't have money for furniture at the time. Right. And I still remember sitting on the floor having food. So we didn't know any better. We didn't go to private schools, we went to state schools. So for that, maybe I didn't question him, but maybe I thought that was normal at that age. Like I said, it was only years after, when the business flourished, that, we didn't even have to tell him to spend time with us. He changed his own ways. He knew what he had to do at the time. And when he reached that time, he knew how to prioritize other things as well, like family, because we were still young.
Yeah.
But I remember from the ages of 13, 14, 15, he started spending a lot more time with us. Right. Because he could free his time a bit more, because he'd taken to a business to a certain level. He didn't have to be there the whole time. So, and I think he was quite conscious of that as well, because as a child, he spent a lot of time with his father. My father came over in 1962. And then 1962, my father followed him over in 1964. So my dad was only 11 years old, so leaving all his siblings behind and his mother to come and join his father at the age of 11.
Wow.
And my grandfather used to work night shifts. So at night time, my father used to be alone in the house. But he got to spend a lot of time with his father. So I think because of that transition, maybe he automatically knew that I've got to spend time with my own children too. Because the lessons that, I think the person that my father was, he learned a lot of skills, a lot of things from his own father. So he probably knew that, this is the things that happen and you've got to pass it down to your own kids. And I think that's what he did himself. So he'd been through the whole thing himself. So naturally he knew what he had to do. But obviously sacrificing a lot of his time trying to set up the business at the time that he was.
Did you ever think, or did you ever doubt, what if this business doesn't do well and we've lost a lot of time? Because, can you imagine?
I think at the age of 6, 7, 8, you're quite unaware of these things, of failures, etc.
I mean, has your dad ever said that to you, that he had this doubt? What if, I'm spending so much time?
Not really. He was such a positive man. He never thought about negative. He said, look, if you start thinking negative things are going to happen. Yeah. His famous phrase was, think positive, be positive, and positive things will always happen. And, he lived his life according to that the whole time. Even through schools and, we were finding it a bit tough. He goes, well, just think about it positively. He said that same message to everybody, and he lived by that motto. He lived by that rule, and he ingrained that into his daily life. Whether if he's exercising, or whether he's playing sport, or whether he's doing business, or whether he's meeting people, he lived by that motto. And I think that was the key to his success. So failure was never an option for him.
Wow.
Even when the chips are down, he always saw the positive thing in that. He said, look, no, maybe it's not for us. Maybe we've got to do something else. And he was really, really good at improvising. If one thing's not working, He's very quick at changing things around. Okay, well, if this is not working, why are we carrying on with something that's not going to happen? Let's change things around. And he did that in business, and he proved that in business.
So he changed the plan, but never the goal.
No, I think goals change as life moves on. People have aspirations, people have certain goals. And then when some people get to those goals, they're stagnant there. Well, hang on. We've got to that goal now. What's next?
Yeah.
He was always one to say, and people used to question him about this, Mr. Awan, when are you going to retire? He goes, retire? Who retires? Nobody retires.
Not in my household, no.
Nobody retires. He said, retire and do what? All these people, my own friends, he said, who retired, sitting at home, got diabetes, blood pressure, fallen ill. He said, do I want that kind of life? He said, life actually is very, very short. I mean, and I can believe that now. I mean, I'm 50 this year. And if I go back and think, where's the last 30 years gone? Right? So he passed away at the age of 67.
Yeah, that's no age.
That's only 17 years on top of me.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
But he lived his life like a lion. He used to get up every morning. He made a certain routine, and he lived by routine. I think routine is a very important thing that he always said. He said, always have a routine in life. He would get up every morning, 7 o'clock, out of bed, cycle 10 miles, regardless of the weather. It could be gale force winds outside, and I've physically seen my father cycling gale force winds and rain.
Really?
But he said, this is my routine. And this all happened after his heart bypass, when he had a heart bypass at the age of 49.
Wow.
And he was putting a lot of pressure on himself for business. And I think that was a turning point. He said, why am I putting so much pressure on myself? He goes, is this what life's all about?
Mm.
And it's not really, because you've got to have a certain quality of life. There's certain things that you want to achieve in life. And dedicating all that time to business, just business, and not to the community, and not to yourself, and not to your family. Yeah. What's the point in working hard?
Yeah.
What do you work hard for?
You work for people, don't you?
You work for people, you work for yourself, you work for quality of life, and you want to put something back into the community. I think that's the key thing, which I find a lot of people, very successful people, don't do is put time back into the community. Because let's look at Birmingham, let's say, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for this city of Birmingham, given those opportunities to my father, and he grasped those opportunities, I don't think he would be the person that he was. I think God blesses you when you give back to the community, whether it's charity, whether it's to people, whether it's to mosques or low community, whatever you do. I think giving back is key, and I think that's a big part of one's success.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, even it says in our religion, charities, your wealth will never decrease giving in charity, and that could be anything.
And what's your true wealth? Your true wealth is your offspring, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. And
what you pass down to your offspring. So all the good qualities that you have to pass down to your children. And faith, your iman, which is very, very important. Our faith teaches us so much more. And I think just grasping ideas of what your faith is asking you to do, just simple things like that, brings you a lot of success in your house. And and he always lived by that. So he said, faith is number one. Mm-hmm. And secondly, having good values, whether it's cultural values, whether it's good values from any community you can bring on. Everybody has good values. Yeah. But having them and instilling them in not just your own life, but into your children's life, I think that's very, very important. What would you say was the most important lesson your father taught you in life and business? Business-wise, I think is very simple. And I think you can apply this to your life as well. He said, look, whatever you do, you live your life with honesty and integrity, especially in business. Because we were traders, he said, look, once you've given your tongue to somebody, honor that. Always honor what you promised somebody, because that's where your integrity lies. And for him, his honor, his integrity, his pride meant the world to him. He would never let anybody know. If he said he's going to do something, he would get it done. Sometimes things don't work out, but he was always very open with people. He said, always live in honesty and integrity and in the bounds of your faith. Don't go out of the bounds of your faith. I think that's a very, very important lesson. I think you've learned that definitely because this podcast has happened. Yes, I think so. Yeah, well, we can. Well, we didn't think of a time. No. You said we'll get it done. And we did. And we're here now. And we're here. And, and at least
there's something that you've learnt. We can vouch for that now.
But they're very, very important key aspects of one's life.
Yeah.
And you see, and these are the kind of things you want to pass down to your own children as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like I said earlier, your children will see and follow what you do and not what you tell them. So you have to basically walk the walk.
Well, they do, and they say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right?
Exactly.
And they I think for every child, not just for a son but for a daughter as well, your father's like your role model, isn't he? Really,
Yeah.
Your mother and father are your role models, and whatever they do, you think that's gold.
Yeah.
That's what life should be like.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, if you see that your kids aren't doing something right, you tell them. My dad was very strict. I think up until the age of 18, 19, my father was very strict on me.
Really?
Very strict.
Tell me a bit.
Yeah. He was,
Give me some
he'd been through
memories.
life as well. He knew what it was like. And, he'd always make sure that we weren't spoiled in certain sense.
Yeah.
We didn't have much money growing up at the time. The success of business came later. So when I was going to university, and he's look, you're off to university now, and you get that Farley talk, and he said, "This is your weekly allowance." He gave me £30, and I was in London.
Say, Dad, this is just going to get me there.
No, he gave me 30. He used to give me £30, and he gave me a credit card. And he said, "This fuel card is only for your fuel to London and to back, nothing for else."
Okay.
Right. So he said, "If you want to do other things, find work out there." I said, "Oh, where am I going to work in London?" And I remember I went to Gap in London, and all my friends around me, they'd been working all their lives, and I kind of grew up in my dad's cash and carry, so I was always working there. But these guys had got work straight away, and I remember going to Gap, and the lady said, "Oh, we are recruiting. Can you do an interview right now?" I said, "Yeah, okay." 10 minutes later, I got the job. Rang Dad up, and he goes, "Oh, good. Glad you're working in London. That's good to earn money." And I lasted there about a month, and then I quit. And I said, "This is not for me." And then I thought, because I always had I was always buying and selling stuff, even through college, university, through school and university.
Yeah.
So what I started doing was going to my dad's cash and carry, getting loads of stuff. He used to make me pay for it. He used to invoice. He goes, "This is your goods. You're taking it. You're going to pay for it." Started selling stuff at university, making a lot more money. So I think that's where the entrepreneurial journey was kind of carrying on. I thought, can't work for anybody. I got to work for myself.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm letting the whole generation down.
And it was great. It was fantastic. I mean, I was, earning, 150, £200 a day.
Oh,
just
wow.
buying and selling stuff. So I kind of had a great time for university.
That's about £1,000 a week.
So it was good. It was very, very good. So we always sold, all the latest gadgets and stuff, and you kind of worked out. I literally lived college through that as well. I thought, well, if I did the college, I might as well do it through university as well.
See,
so that was interesting.
See, working in Gap, at least you got the taste of what it's actually like when you're working for someone else.
Well, that was the initial plan after my graduation. The plan was to graduate and go and work outside the industry for about 2 years. But I wouldn't say unfortunate. The fortunate thing was our business was growing, even at that stage, and we were purchasing a new site for our business because it grown so rapidly that by the time I'd graduated, I was asked to join the family business straight away. So I didn't get to work away as much really. So the couple of months I had at Gap was good fun. It's good fun, but
you get the taste of it.
Yeah, you get the taste of it, but I think the experience you learn working for your dad, people think it's easy. Trust me, it's not easy. It's very, very tough. And I've shared this story many times, and I'll share it with you too. I remember when I'd graduated, and I had a couple of days off, and Dad said, "Okay, Monday morning you start work with me." Suited and booted, and
did you ask him what's the interview time and date?
There's never so much interview. The thing is,
there's no interview here, mate. You already got the job.
Through every summer holidays, through every Easter holidays, from a very young age, from the age of 8 to 9, I spent in my dad's cash and carry. So I kind of knew what it was like. But this time, now I'm going into work full time.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've shared this story. So I went in suited and booted, and he made me start downstairs in the loading bay with a brush. At the time, you kind of bite into, why is he making me do this? Why am I going through this? Considering I've worked with him through Christmas, whatever. The best lesson he ever taught me. I started working right from the ground bottom, then slowly made my way up. And I think the reasoning behind that was because he wanted me to understand and appreciate staff, appreciate the labor that we have, appreciate that these are the guys who help build the business. And I think learning every aspect of the business. I see a lot of children go into family businesses, get a desk, start working away, but do they really appreciate the man who's working down there?
Absolutely.
They are the key people that build your business. Every morning, my dad came to work. Before he sat in his office, he would go and greet every single staff member downstairs, shake them by the hand, and then go to his office. He said, if it wasn't for these people, we wouldn't have the success that we have today. So you've got to understand that, you've got to appreciate that, and you've got to respect them. And I had a great rapport with my staff. Fantastic rapport. So learning each aspect of the business, right from the bottom all the way up, that lesson you can't buy. And I think it was a great decision that he'd made.
No, it is. And when I have like a family member join one of our stores, it's exactly the same. We put them in the kitchen, start washing the chickens, because you need to understand.
Yeah.
And if you do need to kind of go in and do it, you need to know how to do it. It's not about, oh, my father or my brother owns this and that's it, I'm going to get the best job. But that could be very, very detrimental to the business because you don't know the steps, the procedures.
I think it's not just detrimental to the business, it can be detrimental to the child himself, myself. Yeah. I could have turned out completely different.
You could have been absolutely spoiled.
Absolutely. And I've seen people out there like that. And generally I've seen people like that and I think, what the hell have you learned from your parents? Why? You've got all this success behind you, but look at the state of you, how you are as a person.
Yeah.
No humbleness, no nothing. I'm the big man. I can do what I want. But with no substance behind it.
But why do you think parents do that to their children?
Do you know what? I don't get it. I don't get it why they would do that. Because they're not going to be that. The humbleness is never going to be there. It's, a lot of arrogance is always there.
Yeah.
Arrogance is a terrible thing. And people can see that from a mile away.
See, like your generation, or I should say our generation, because it's only about 10 years apart, right? So more or less the same, right? I'll make you feel younger. And our fathers, they were totally different. The upbringing was different. The generation was different. The era was different. Now when we're fathers, right, our sons or daughters, the era is different. We have a different mindset to our fathers, right? Do you reckon you would still make your son do what your father made you do?
100%. 100%. Will I let them come into the family business? No. I don't think that the generation now has that hunger that we probably had.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents probably had more hunger because they came as immigrants to this country. They saw hardship. They had to fight for everything, didn't they, really?
Yeah.
It was very tough for them. Forget about starting a business. Working factories day and night, not just supporting their own kids, but their brothers and their sisters and their mothers and their children. So they had it tough. Then it came to the point of our fathers, when they came in. Yes, they still had the hunger. They still had to succeed. And I think they started businesses, I would still say, is a golden era.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at the economy now, it's nothing what it is right now. It's survival of the fittest at the moment. So they grafted. But would I let my kids? No, I don't think. I think spoiling a child is the worst thing you can do.
But would you get them on board in the family business?
I don't think they have it in them.
Why not?
I don't think. I think
what would you let your son do?
I think businesses are changing now. Business isn't what it was. What it was like even 20 years ago. Things are changing now. I think now with with obviously the internet now, with what's happening, things are changing, especially with all these social media, how people are promoting business on social media. This generation is completely different. They've been brought up in a completely different era to what we have. A lot more technology. Yes, they'll do business if they want to do business, but not the same business that we're doing. It'll probably be something a lot more different because times are changing. People's things they buy now are all changing. Yes, we change our business with time as well, but I think these kids are going to be completely different. They're in more of the whiz kind of era.
But wouldn't you want your child to implement this new era of business into your family so that it kind of moves with the time and the legacy kind of moves forward?
It's a great concept. I think it is. It's a fantastic thing, but maybe it's because I want to give my children a chance to see what they want to do.
Yeah, but your father didn't give you that chance. You're like, right, mate, you're coming in.
He didn't give me that chance. In fact, no. I wanted to be an airline pilot. That was my passion. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh, nice.
And I think that's every kid's passion. They want to do something.
My nephew's a pilot.
Is he really?
Yeah, but he's just a pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got his
PPL.
Yeah. And he's got, I think he's got his commercial one. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I think he's got his commercial.
That's something that I'd always
it's just
wanted to
there.
do.
He's got it. Yeah. You know, so, but he runs a few of the stores and stuff. And, alhamdulillah, he's doing really well. But that every now and then he'll be like, oh, I went for a little fly around and went to Blackburn. I went to Glasgow for a breakfast. And I was just like, oh, it's all right.
Oh, it's great. He's following his passion. So I really want to be supportive to what passion my children have.
Yeah.
If it's business, great. I will support that in any way I possibly can. My eldest son, who's 13 at the moment, he's very, very passionate in cricket. He plays county cricket. Yeah. So I'm pushing as hard as I can for him. I take him to training 3-4 times a week. Then I'm traveling up and down the country with him in the summer. Yeah. So I feel I'm supportive.
Yeah.
And I think that's key. I think you've got to be supportive of what your kids want to do. And obviously push them in the right direction. Push them as hard as you can, but you don't want to push them over the edge. They've got to enjoy what they do. My eldest daughter, she's at university now. My younger daughter's going to university.
But then who's gonna continue the legacy? That's the question.
So I see
the granddad.
I see a spark in my younger son. I find him very entrepreneurial.
Okay.
So he's always very intrigued of how business is done. He comes to the office with me on the weekends, even after school. He'd sit there.
So we have hope.
We have hope. We
just gotta work on it.
Yeah. But then you see the thing I don't want to them to miss out anything they want to do. Yeah. Business carries on. Do I want to retire? No, I don't. I'm not one for retiring. You start to enjoy life a bit more. Mm-hmm. Similar to how my father was, really. You got to enjoy life more. You take things a bit easy, but you keep that mind active and keep working. So whether the younger one takes it on or who knows, my daughters might take it on. It's up to them.
Yeah, somebody has to take it on. It's your dad's hard work. It's their granddad's hard work. Somebody has to.
But then you can apply that knowledge to something else. Maybe we'll change the business into something different.
As long as something's happening.
So we've got a trading business and we've got a property business.
Yeah.
Property business will carry on. We're still buying property. Mm-hmm. Trading business is changing now, so I'm changed a lot in the business, the trading business that we do as well. So you change things around.
It's got to evolve.
Business evolve. I mean, it's not because you can't do the same.
You can't be selling the same things from the 80s and the 60s. You got to evolve as your time goes, and that's what I said was like, if one of your children takes over and brings in the new concept of whatever it is at the time,
bring it on. Fantastic! It'd be great for them to do
that. We gotta keep the business going.
We
gotta keep. Otherwise,
you gotta keep a business going. Whether you change or do something different, but if they're interested, come on.
Yeah.
By all means, why not?
So, what's one of your fondest memories of your father that always makes you smile?
Fondest memories, I would say, is he was always very welcoming, regardless how busy he was. That office door always remained open. And he said, throughout the whole of my life, have had an open door policy. Whenever somebody comes in, let them come and see you. There's a reason why they've come to see you, and give them time. I think him giving time to people. And because I saw that, I mean, don't forget, I shared an office space with him for 22 years, right? So I saw people come visit him. I saw people take advice off him. And what really makes me smile now, my father passed away nearly 5 years ago, and I still have people coming into my office saying, your dad helped me do this. Your dad helped me start this business up. Your dad gave me advice on this. And that always brings a smile to my face, because 5 years on, they are still talking about a man who probably spent sometimes 2-3 minutes with him, but left a mark with him.
Yeah.
So he left a mark with everybody. And just hearing such wonderful words coming out of people, will always bring a smile on my face.
Yeah.
You know, just to remember, because, you know, we hear, we see, we know people who passed away 6 months ago. People don't talk about them anymore.
Yeah.
So the thing about leaving a lasting legacy is crucial, very, very important. And I think he's done that to the T.
That's amazing. I mean, I've never met him. Like this, I've seen him, but I never got to kind of speak to him. And but everyone that I've spoken to about him have always said a positive word, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah, he just used to pick people up. You know, if anyone had a problem, if we had a problem, let's say we had a problem at work, and it's time to close up. He said, okay, now you're not going to remember, you're not going to think about this problem. You're going to go home, spend time with your family, and we'll deal with this tomorrow. And he always had a solution for everything. He said, don't take your worries back home. Leave it for another day. And, you know, his advice was so many golden nuggets that he left for me. Not just for me, for the community, really. And
that was my next question, you know. Literally, you just answered my next question. And the question was, no, not the golden nuggets. Not where they're stored. We'll come to that afterwards. In what ways did your father inspire not just you, but others in the community?
I think he inspired people a lot, in a lot of ways. A lot of people come to him and say, Uncle, you know, we were trying to start this business, we don't know how to start it. Because he had so many years experience, he was able to guide them in so many ways. And it's not just really the kind of business he was in. It could be a completely separate business altogether.
Wow.
But he had the acumen. As long as you have some sort of business acumen, right, you can help guide people, because there's certain things that every business has. And he was able to apply that into helping them achieve where they wanted to go. And not, you know, it's like, because he'd been there and he succeeded and he's tried and tested in business, people would always take on board what he would give. Sometimes advice he'd give, people wouldn't think, well, Uncle, I don't think it's going to work in this way, or Mr. Awan, it's not going to work in this way. Look, just try this way. We had this one gentleman came to see that, and he said, look, Uncle, I've been trying to get my business off the ground. I've got this business plan, and I'm working to the business plan, but I'm not still seeing success. So my dad said, well, clearly that business plan's not working. Chuck it away. Just because you have a business plan doesn't mean you stick to that business plan. Things happen, obstacles come your way. You got to change your business plan.
Yeah.
Change your thought process. Just something as little as that, and the guy changed to what he was doing to completely something different. And today the guy's bought millions of pounds worth of property.
Really?
So, you know, it's,
wow.
I think it's not just the nuggets that you take on board, it's the experience that you're taking on as well. A lot of times when I was buying goods, and I thought it was the greatest deal that I could ever have, my dad goes, that's not going to work. I said, why is it not going to work? It's a great product, it's going to sell, it's not going to work. What happens? It flops. The reason why? I lost out because I didn't have that experience that he'd been seeing through. He'd seen product longevity, he's seen what products work, what products don't work. And I think he had that that great thought in his head, a great business mind on him. And over the years, I was just glad that I was able to learn from him and get that experience on board. And that's something I think is very difficult to buy. You can't buy that.
Tell me a bit about his philanthropy work, because you know it was very, very giving, like we've discussed charity. So when did that kind of spark up? Because first of all, he set up the business, right, which takes time, effort, and then spend time with the family. And then when did he think about, okay, now I need to set up something for underprivileged people in Pakistan? I think you do a lot of work in Pakistan.
I do, but with Dad was, see, we come from a family of charity workers. We've always done some sort of charity, not just charity, even community work.
Yeah.
Or giving something back to the community. My grandfather was the same. I mean, I hear stories of people knocking my grandfather's door at 11 o'clock at night. Mr. Awan, we got this, because he was an educated man. Can you help us fill this application form? Do some sort of community work he was doing, or help people if they're gone to a police station, he would help them out. And my dad was the same. You know, he said, look, if somebody, like, when you're in business and you've got a warehouse and cash carry, there's people always coming and knocking door, asking for chanda for some sort of work that's happening in Pakistan. He never turned anybody away. He said, if somebody's come to you, give them something. Never let them go away empty-handed. Because he was supporting his family in Pakistan at the same time as well, so he was doing a lot of work there, sending money, making sure people haven't got money to pay for their daughters' weddings or whatever it was. He would always help out. He always put family first. And I think the more time he spent in his business, he started sitting on very key boards like Save the Children. So he sat on the board alongside Princess Anne, Sir Adrian Cadbury. And I think that's where the local charity work kind of started. So he would, sit on these big boards, not just business boards, also business boards as well. So doing the philanthropy work, but at the same time, giving back to the community via business as well. And then, I saw that throughout all my life. And I remember it was about 2013 it was. And he said, look, we've got a great business. Everything is working fine. But you've got to give time to the community. I wasn't much involved in the community as such, really. He said, you've got to, involve yourself. You've got to create some sort of impact. You've got a great pedestal to work on. And you've got to give back to the community. It's important. So I started my work with the Birmingham Youth Sports Academy. I started giving time there. And I was there with them for about 7-8 years. And then, about 7-8 years until I was president of the organisation. So I saw a lot of effort that we'd done and the success of it as well. So, like I said, we come from a family of workers, and I've said this on every podcast, and I'll say it on yours as well. So our surname Awan means to help others.
Yeah.
So I remember my dad saying, "You got to always live up to your name. Always make sure you help people, not just financially."
She said to you, Dad, how much does it cost to change your name?
But I'm very proud of that. The whole family is. My uncles are the same. My uncle in Manchester, he sat on a lot of the big boards of the major charities. So the whole family's always done some sort of work, whether community, whether charity work. My dad did it through all of his life, and that's something that we never wanted to lose and carry that on. Hence, I started the Nazir Awan Foundation after father passed away.
Yeah. I wanted to touch upon that as well. What was it like when you got the news? And were you expecting that? In terms of, obviously nobody expects it. That's the wrong question, wrong way of saying it. How did that feel when you first heard the news?
It was probably some of the darkest moments of my life, I would say. When they say to you that when your father's alive, that roof is over your head?
Yeah.
You literally feel that roof blown away as soon as that happens. My father's a very fit man, a very active man. And when he contracted the virus, because he was so positive, and he was strong, and he was fit, we thought he'll be fine. He said, look, I don't feel very well, so just let me be. I'll stay at home. Don't come and visit me. I don't want nobody getting ill. And stayed home for a week. And Saturday morning, he phoned up. He said, I feel a lot better today. I feel a lot better. I said, that's good. You're probably getting over the virus now, which is good. And 4 or 5 hours later, he's back in bed, shivering again. And I said, look, let me call the ambulance now to come and get you checked out. And his oxygen levels had dropped. And they said, look, he can come to the hospital, but if he wants to stay, he's fine. And he decided he's going to stay. And then another hour later, his oxygen levels had dropped further. So the ambulance had to take him in. So even when he'd gone into hospital, we knew that he's fit, healthy. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. And then I got the news the following day. He phoned me up and he said, look, they're going to put me on a ventilator. And I said, yeah, I just spoke to the nurse and they said that you're going on a ventilator, but I know you'll be fine. And then it was getting quite emotional. I thought, is this the last time I'm going to speak to him? Because with the news we were hearing, everyone on ventilators weren't.
Yeah, I was going to say, because a lot of people, when they went on a ventilator, they
They weren't making it.
9 out of 10 times
Yeah.
they didn't make
They
it
didn't
back.
make it. So, but I thought, well, like I kept saying, he's strongest fit, he'll make it. And I actually broke down on the phone when I was speaking to him. And then my wife spoke to him, and then she goes, look, I don't know what's happened. But she kept saying that you'll be fine, you'll get through this. So Sunday afternoon, he was put on a ventilator. I was getting told every single day that you get a progress report, how he's doing. And every day, Sunday night, I heard he's comfortable. Monday, he's comfortable. Sunday afternoon, yeah, he's completely fine. Sunday evening, he's fine. And then I got a call from the hospital about 11 o'clock at night time saying that he's actually deteriorating. And we're not going to revive him if anything happens. I said, well, you're going to have to do that. I'm not taking that. Whatever happens, you're going to resuscitate him. And they said, Amer, look, we don't even think your dad's going to make it through the night. I said, what are you talking about? He's not going to make it. You're telling me he's completely fine. My dad is strong, healthy, fit man. He'll be fine. I know he's going to be fine. And they said, look, you're the next of kin. So we suggest you come and say your final goodbyes. And I said, I'm not coming to say my final goodbyes. What are you talking about? They go, just come to hospital. Let me speak to you. So as I'd gone in, they said that his heart is now pretty much gone. He's got sepsis. His kidneys have failed. So literally a multi-organ failure. Just like that. So I had to get dressed up in all the gear, and I was fortunate that I was able to sit with him for 4 hours and just prayed with him, and I was just talking to him. Stuff that you'd always want to say to your dad, but you never did say. And he's very emotional. But even then, do you know what? I came out of there thinking he's going to be fine. He'll make it. And then the following day, I got the call saying that we need your permission to turn the machines off. I said, I can't give you that. I can't give that permission. My mom doesn't know anything yet, and she's got COVID as well. So I can't go to my mom's house. So me and the family, we went to mom's house, and then we literally threw a door. We had to tell mom what happened, that this is what they're saying. And he's not going to get any better. In fact, they said that if there's a chance that he does make it, he's going to live his life like a cabbage. Do I want that for my dad? A man of complete pride. But, I didn't want to call the shot. I said to mom, what do you want me to do? She said, well, you do what you think is best. I spoke to the doctors again. I said, is there even 1% chance? They go, look, he's deteriorating right now. So it was, I had to make that call and say, fine, switch the machines off. And it was the night of Shaban. And as soon as the Maghrib Azan went off, I got the call that your dad's passed away. And that was tough, Nasser. That was very tough. Very tough. Yeah, definitely the hardest moment of my life. Not just for me, but for us as a family, it was very tough. To lose a loved one in the circumstances that we did.
Absolutely.
Being the big man that he was, such a big heart, and given us so much. Everything we are today is because of him. Everything we have is because of him. The people that we are is because of him. And then that person now is no longer there.
And the thing is, it's instant. When your elders get to an age of 80s, 90s, you kind of start to accept it. At the end of the day, that's our faith, isn't it? We got to go one day. And of course it hurts, but when your elders are at that age range, you kind of know it's going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah. And I think in the back of my mind, I had the same thing. I said, you know what? The way the regime that my dad lives by, he'll be fit and well into his 18, 19. Alhamdulillah, he'll be there.
Alhamdulillah,
he'll be there. But he always said, look, I don't ever want to be reliant on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He was a man of pride, wasn't he? He said, when I go, I want to go like this. And that's exactly what happened. You're never ready for your parents to go, are you? You're never ready.
No, never.
You're never ready. It was a tough thing to swallow, really. But we used to say, when he's passed away, how am I going to get through this next week, or this month, or this year? And this year is 5 years.
Subhanallah. It's just,
And we lost a lot of good people in the community
yeah.
at those times. A lot of really good people, members of the community who passed away. 5 of his close friends had passed away. In fact, when I got the call from the hospital that morning saying we need to switch the machines off, we need your permission, one of my best friends, he phoned me, goes, my dad just passed away with COVID. And I'm trying to tell him that my dad's also in hospital, and both fathers were close friends.
Wow.
They both worked together in Northern Ireland. So they both passed away at the same time. He passed away in the morning, my dad passed away in the afternoon. So it was a tough time for a lot of members of the community who lost a lot of good people.
Very. Do you think that a lot of people said that the hospitals, when they put them on ventilators, that was the whole thing, kind of getting rid of the people? I mean, it's not nice saying that.
I don't believe in any of that. I was there on the ward. I saw the nurses. I saw what they were doing. That's all in God's hands. Listen, your time of death is written.
Oh yeah,
from the day you're born. So, for us as Muslims, it's easy to accept that was my dad's time to go. If he wasn't COVID, it would have been something else. But that's the time that was written for him. What brings me solace is passing away on the 15th of Shaban, passing away at Maghrib time, and knowing that people who pass away with a certain illness or disease or pandemic, whatever you may call it,
the past sins
go straight to heaven.
Yeah. Because their past sins get cleaned off.
Everything is cleaned off, and you die as a martyr.
Yeah.
So he got the death of a martyr, and that, for me, knowing that my father has been granted the death of a martyr, is a very proud thing to have.
See, this is the thing with us, like, we have that belief.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing that kind of keeps us going.
It keeps us going, 100%. And I think if it wasn't for my faith, we wouldn't be strong. We're trying to deal with this. This is a big loss one of the biggest losses for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And what got me through it? Yeah, your family's there for you, your wife, your kids, your mother, they're all there to support you. But if your faith is true, and your faith is strong, and you have that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you'll get over anything. Yeah. You'll never get over it, you accept it. You learn to accept it in the proper way. You never get over it.
Mm-hmm.
So faith for us is very, very key.
Number one.
100%. 100%.
What do you miss about your father, both as a father and a mentor?
Okay. As a mentor, I'll start with that first.
Yeah.
I shared an office with him 22 years. My desk was here. He's this, he's like 2 meters away.
Yeah.
That's what I miss. Just having that, sitting there.
Looking over.
Any issues? Dad, I got this issue. Yeah, don't worry. I'll get it sorted out. I really do miss that. So,
till today,
his desk is still there. I don't sit down his desk. And I've got a photo behind the desk, of him sitting at that desk. So when I look at the corner of my eye, I see him sitting there. I feel his presence there. And I remember when he'd passed away, and it was COVID, so we were actually open through COVID because we were selling sanitizers, so we were open anyway.
Yeah, essentials, yeah.
But I closed on the morning when we found out he's going to pass away. We didn't open for a week, and then the following time we were just trying to rush and get the funeral done as quick as we possibly could. And thankfully, I've got good friends with some counsellors, and Counsellor Sharon Thompson, and I still thank her so much till this day. She managed to get my dad buried pretty much straight away. So now I buried him, I think, well, how am I going to go to that office? I feel too emotionally hurt to go back to the office. And I remember saying to the wife, I said, listen, I'm going to find this really tough. So she came with me. And I sat in that office, and the comfort I felt in that office.
Really?
The comfort I felt in that office. Thinking he was there. His presence was there. It's just one of those things. So something that I was dreading, I really enjoyed sitting there. So going back to the office was very good for me. I think mentally it was very good for me, but at the same time, I had that comfort in my heart. So I do miss that. As a father, I think you'll miss everything about your father. And I think you only fully realize when he's gone of how much effort, how much sacrifices he'd done for you, how life changes when he's not there. Because we leave everything to our parents. Any worries that we have, we leave it to them. They will have any problems that we might have. They're the source of you turn to Allah always, but your father is always there.
Of course, yeah.
And he's the only man who wants to see you do better than he's succeeded. That's the only man who's ever going to do that, is your father. And he was that way inclined. Those like I say, those golden nuggets of words of advice, anything that we needed, we'd always turn to him.
Yeah.
You turn to God for help, but you turn to your father for advice.
Yeah. And
that advice was gold. Because whatever he said, okay, I might not have agreed with it at the time, but in the long run, he proved that he was right. And that's what you don't have. You miss not having to turn to someone like your father. Yes, we have a great support network, we have our friends, but you have a different connection with your father.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's a completely unique one. So I do miss him. I miss him immensely. I miss his words of wisdom. I miss his advice. There's times that even to this date, if Dad was here, what would he have done? But the beauty of that, Nasser, is a lot of the times you know the answer already. I think because I was so fortunate to spend that time with him, he'd naturally ingrained a lot of his kind of strengths, his advice into me already. So you don't have to look far sometimes, you just got to ask yourself, what would Dad have done in this situation? Because you spent time with him, because he instilled all this knowledge and experience inside you, the answers are there a lot of the times, but it's just his voice not saying it to you.
Yeah.
That little kick of the backside, that little clip around the ear hole, whatever you may want to call it. Even now I say, he was, when he wanted to be strict with me, he could.
Yeah.
A lot of times he shouted at me. How much I wish for him to come down and give me a proper slap. That's what I miss about him. He had that. And that like I said, I'll give up anything for that. Just even for a slap. Forget advice, just a slap. But these are things you miss about your father.
Yeah.
It's a different connection, isn't it, altogether?
It is. It's one of those.
But in saying that, since I have lost my father, I think I've consciously woken up a bit more and spending a lot more time with my own children now, giving them whatever time I possibly can. So it's been a lesson learned, right? You kind of think, well, okay, he done all this for me. I don't want my kids to forget me, but forget me, even my grandfather.
Yeah.
So we go to the grave, make sure I take them every single week to the grave. And I think one of the biggest comforts for us was when we started off the foundation, the charity that we did back in 2021. And that was the highest thing on my agenda when he first passed away. I said, I've got to do something
for him, yeah.
Not just for him, but so people don't forget him. My main worry was I don't want anybody to forget him, especially my children. But he spent a lot of time with my children and the family. So I thought, what can I do to do something to just keep his memory alive? And then I thought about the foundation. I thought, let me do something under his name. I started off a charity, registered charity, got everything done. We're only a small charity. It's just, my mother, my wife, and my children. But it's just for something for them to remember him, but at the same time, knowing the importance of charity, knowing the importance of there's a lot of underprivileged children out there. Because my dad always he said, whatever you do, always be thankful for what you have. He goes, because there's always somebody who's a lot worse off than you.
Absolutely.
He said, he said, any problem you have, any issue you're under, anything you're under some sort of stress, just for 5 minutes, just think, there's somebody in a worse situation than you.
Yeah.
So be grateful for what you have at the time.
It's a hadith as well, isn't it?
It is a hadith, yes. It is a hadith. So, he lived by another motto, and I see this motto being used by a lot of people today. Because I remember I mentioned a couple of podcasts, and I've seen a lot of people go on podcasts use this motto now. But he said, I remember it was only, I would say, a couple of months before he passed away. And my dad used to love eating his fruits. It was always about berries and fruits and all this kind of stuff. And where my desk was, he used to stand in front and have his berries and fruits. And I remember he said, son, this building that we're in, whose is it? I said, it's ours. He said, okay.
There's something funny coming on here. I can just feel it.
No, it's not funny. It's
because I can just picture him standing, leaning on his table.
With his suit on.
Yeah, with his suit on. He's sitting there, you're sitting there. And it's like, I need to get this guy. I need to know what he's on about. Anyways,
and
go
then
on.
he said the car you drive out there, whose is it? I said,
Mine.
it's mine. And he's not saying anything. He's
Yeah.
not saying anything.
He's just listening to your answers.
He goes, he said all the nice clothes and the food you can eat tonight. Where's that from? So it's from our hard work labor. And there's me answering all these questions. He goes, son, none of it's yours. He goes, today, you're just a custodian over this. Tomorrow it's going to be somebody else's.
Yeah.
It's never yours. And this next thing I want to say, people are watching this and they've used this at speeches, at events and everything, but this came from my father. He said, people are never going to remember you for what house you lived in, what car you drove, what watch you had. He said, they're only going to remember you. How did you make a difference in their lives? And what did you do to help others? That's the only thing that people are going to remember you for.
Yeah.
And he's so right. He was so right. He was so right.
Yeah.
And that's
Couldn't
a big
agree
lesson for us.
Yeah.
And that you've got to create that lasting legacy. You've got to create something of empowerment, impact. These words are used very lightly.
Mm.
But you could just say something very small. Let's say like a smile is charity, right?
Yeah.
But you could do the smallest thing for somebody and change their life. So it's what you do for people, isn't it, really? I think that's the key thing.
Exactly.
And being selfish and not sharing your knowledge, or not sharing your wisdom, or not helping people in their time of need, that's the downfall of people. You've got to be very giving, and I think that's a very important lesson I learned from my father, and that's the same lesson that I teach my own children. And through the work of charity, it makes them appreciate things more.
Mm.
So I do a lot of work in Pakistan, do a lot of work here, seeing people who are so underprivileged.
It's heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking.
I went to Lebanon,
You
the
did,
Syrian
yes.
border,
I remember following your
and
work.
it was just it was mind-boggling. The faith that they have. It's just like, dude, you've got nothing, but the alhamdulillah, we're happy. You think to yourself, what would I do in this situation? This is the reason why we're not in this situation, because we can't
but see,
handle
those
it.
people don't know any better, do they? They think that that's life, but we know that's not life for them.
Yeah,
You've got to do something a lot better for
No,
them.
but I spoke to few of those people, fathers of those
Yeah.
families, and they were businessmen. They were, from a well-off family, and they just got caught up in a war, or I don't really call it a war, but they just got caught up in a situation where they have to leave everything. And that father was a businessman, and now he's got no legs. You think, wow, he just wants to be normal.
And we think we're resilient. That's resilience, right?
That's resilience. And and he was not complaining whatsoever.
Because
why?
why?
Alhamdulillah, it is what it is.
Because they have their faith in God, don't they?
Yeah. And that made me realize, and it's just like,
It's gratitude, isn't it? It's having gratitude.
life's not everything. You can change life.
But it comes to that point, isn't it? You're probably in that situation, and it doesn't matter how worse he is. He might not have any legs, or he might not have arms. But that his child might not even have a father. So there's always somebody in a worse situation than you. That's why I say Allah shukr karna chahiye. You should be grateful for everything that you have.
Everything, yeah.
And I think that's a very important lesson that my dad taught. And he kept saying it is always give shukr. Always give shukr. Be thankful, show gratitude. And he goes, you'll never fail.
You can never fail. For some, even just waking up in the morning, it's a blessing.
Of course it is.
And then on top of that, we've got everything else. We might not be driving a £100,000 car. We might not be wearing a £2,000 trainers, but we still got something. And there's people
are still moaning out there. Who've got all this and still moaning.
Subhanallah, why are you still complaining? This is not right. That's not right. Well, half of the time it's your own fault, really.
It is your own fault, and I think this is why when you do some sort of charity work, or you do some sort of philanthropy work, whatever you want to call it, it humbles you a lot. When you see people going through terrible atrocities.
Honestly, I went there once, and I was just like, I went with a nice bunch, right? They kept the atmosphere very light for us, And because if it was with someone else, I think it's a very, very sad situation.
Yes, it is.
And it really kind of hits you mentally. You think, wow. But because I went with a nice bunch, we kind of kept the environment, atmosphere really light.
But it gives you the reason to do something for it, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You come back with a different mindset
person.
altogether.
Yeah. And you come home,
you want to be the reason. You want to be the reason to change that person's life.
100%. And you come home, you switch the hot water on, you have a shower. You think, I've got hot water. Those are the people there. They don't even have water, let alone cold water.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just like, and it makes you, honestly, my friends, Sunny Araf took me.
Wonderful guy, lovely brother.
And I paid him to say that, by the way. And he used to go a lot. And he always used to say to me, look, I can tell you millions of stories, but it will not affect you. You really need to come out and see it for yourself. So, okay, what exactly can it be? Well, when I went, it's mind-blowing. It's just really, really sad.
No, he does fantastic work. I remember he phoned me up a couple of years ago, I think back in 2022. And he was off to deliver winter packs for kids, for hats. And he said, I'm do anybody who can donate these hats or scarves, or I can locate anything from. He's actually wanted to buy them, in fact. I said, no, Sonny, brother, this is from me. So I went and bought all these hats and gloves and scarves. And when he sent me those pictures back and videos back, those kids, I wish I'd done more.
You've been, right?
Never with him. No, I've not.
But generally, you've been.
I have been around, yes. I've done a lot of work within Pakistan recently as well, but just haven't had a chance to even go down. We get so busy with life over here.
Yeah.
But I do need to make that effort to go over and have a look at the
I
work
was
that
saying to him, this year, if there is anything, let me know. I might want to go out with
I think we should both go.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should both go. I think great.
But there's one aspect of it which I didn't really like, and I've always said that to people. If I go again, I will not do one particular thing. What I saw, and it really made me think that, are you really doing it for the people or for social media? And it was just cameras, pictures. I mean, if it's your own camera, pictures, whatever, is understandable. But they make you do things again while you're passing the food parcel. And I said to the guy, I'm not doing that again. That's just, you're messing about someone's integrity. That's respect. I'm not going to take it off him. And then just because you missed a photo, that's not my problem.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of that.
There
and
is
I didn't
a lot
like
of that happening. I do see a lot of that happening. People are going to do a lot of charity work, and it's all about the pictures and social media. Yeah, it's good to document stuff. But at the same time, don't put people in awkward situations.
Yep, 100%.
We are going for a purpose. Let's fulfill that purpose. We're not there for just social media to show, wow, look what we've done. We're not here for that. This is why a lot of times I get my work done in Pakistan. I don't even go myself. I don't get documented. We'll put a bit of pictures of what's being done just for social
People
media
need
purposes.
to know that.
They need to know because they're the donators, right?
Yes.
They need to know where the money's going. And because I'm 100% policy, donation policy, I need to make sure that everything is accounted for. Whether you give me a penny, a pound, whatever it is, it's my responsibility to make sure it gets there and gets done correctly.
Yeah. And
so this is why I don't want to be the biggest charity. I don't want to do that. We have no expenses, like just me, my wife, my kids.
Yeah.
We have our dinner, we pay for it through ourselves. Whatever money we raise, we pass on to the people. But a lot of time I use the funds here. There's people here, Nasser, who can't even afford their rent. Single mothers.
Wow.
With parents who've got no heating in the house.
Yeah.
So, we help people take all the money over to Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or whatever. There's people in this country who are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
This is our country. This is the people we want to be helping as well.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time with people in this country, helping them where we possibly can. I think that's important.
Charity starts up for home, doesn't it?
Starts up for home, and I think if you can empower people around you as well, hopefully they will take on that same thing and do how we help them. They can help other people as well.
Of course. Last few questions I have. How do you think your father would like to be remembered by those who he knew, both personally and professionally?
I think he's already done that quite well himself already. Being remembered as a positive person, being remembered as a humble person, being remembered as an honest person, being someone who was always there to help others. I think he's ticked every single box. Nasser, there's nobody I can turn to or said, Nasser, I've heard a negative thing about my father. I haven't. Everything has always been very positive. So he was probably very conscious of that fact.
Yeah.
Like I said, that story I told you, make sure you leave a lasting legacy behind, that people remember you for the good things that you did in life.
Yeah. Because that one person
just
could
that one
change
person. Yes,
everything.
That's it. So I'm very proud that he's left that strong legacy behind. So as a community, that's how he's remembered. Second part, you want to know how we remembered as a family?
As personally and professionally.
Professionally, listen.
Yeah.
You can talk to many of the large organizations out there. If you look at some of the business organizations out there, the ABCC, which is used to be the IAB, who was a founding member of that was my father. So that legacy is carrying on even all the way through, and people still remember him. And he was like I said, the positive words that come out of people. He's done the right things that people remember him by, and I think it's us as a family is to make sure that that legacy does carry on.
Yeah, it's a lot of a burden on your shoulders, isn't it?
Do you know what?
you can't mess it up.
I don't really look at it as a burden.
Not a burden. What's the word?
Weight.
Sorry. Yes,
a lot of big shoes that people say you got to fill.
Yeah, big shoes.
Do you know what? Is it though? Because when you've naturally spent a lot of time, if you and me go traveling for the next 5 years, we spend every bit of time together. Yeah, you're gonna know exactly what you and me are like.
True. Yeah.
Right? Or you take on good traits. You're always taking good things from people, right? And I always believe good people always attract good people.
Yeah.
And you always take on good things from good people. So, do I find it difficult filling those big shoes? To certain aspects, yes. But the real things that make an impact to someone's life, not really, no. I've taken that. I think I can take all the goodness off him and share that with the world as well, or try and be... Or even try to emulate him to a certain level, right? You try to emulate people, but you've got to be your own self as well. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own identity. But I always feel that taking goodness of people and sharing that to people, that's the important part.
Yeah.
So, being remembered professionally, I think he has done. He's done very well in that. People still remember him till this day.
He did that himself.
Yeah, he did that himself.
He didn't leave that to me.
But the good thing is that it's nice to hear those stories as well.
Yes, definitely.
So,
like I said, I've never met him, but I've always heard positive stuff about him.
No, listen,
from everyone.
We couldn't be more prouder of being his legacy.
Yeah.
And what a legacy he's left behind.
See, this is what I want my legacy to be like, your legacy. And it's very, very, very nice, heartwarming when you see someone's father leave them that legacy, and the kids proudly take it forward.
Yeah, but I think proudly take it forward, but I think a lot of the community even took on board a lot of the good stuff that he did, and they remember that and say, we are because of what your father helped us do. And like I said, at the end of the day, Nasser, it's a great podcast. It's all about legacy, and that's what it's all about. It's what you leave behind. Because we're all going to go one day.
Yeah.
And we want to be remembered
for the... It's going to be changed.
You're going to be Fitpod legacy maybe or something.
Fitpod with Mikhail is my son's name.
You never know, but that picture will always be there, I'm guessing.
Well, I hope so. If he doesn't get bigger than I am.
No, but I think it's great. Listen, I think not just my father, but remembering all the good people that we've lost along the way.
A lot of good people we lost in COVID, and it's really sad because that Facebook, I read it on Facebook and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow.
Do you remember the feed on Facebook that day? I have never seen
it went
Facebook
crazy.
Because when I knew he was going to pass away, and I thought, well, I'd already kind of written up a quick thing, and I just sent it when he got passed away. Nasser, for the next 8 hours, man, I was on that phone. My phone was ringing non-stop, and I took everybody's call. All the calls that were ringing, I was taking. For the next 3-4 days, I was taking calls. And people I've never heard of, from all corners of the world, people ringing me. So I put my number on Facebook as well if anyone wants to ring, and it was COVID, so nobody could come and go. But I'd spoken to so many people, and they all said the same thing. What a great man he was. And that was amazing to hear. I don't know who I'm talking to half the time on the phone, but I'm hearing all these good things about my father. And that's just so... The sense of proudness that you get from that.
Absolutely. If you could say one thing to your father right now, what would it be?
I miss him immensely. I miss his presence. I miss his advice. I miss everything about the guy. If I could just have 5 more minutes with him, I'd give everything up.
That's it, man. That's all it's about, isn't it?
It is. But yeah, we just remember the great people, and like I said, for me, it's very important that my children remember him.
But that was my next question. Have you got a set of my questions or something?
I don't have people, so
Literally. So like my next question is, how do you hope your children or your future generation remember your father?
Okay. So with my children, I think that was quite an easy transition because, he spent a lot of time with them. So 5 days out of 7 after work, he would come back to my house and eat food with us and spend time with my kids. He was very close to my children, all of them. So he always said, look, these are my life. My grandchildren are my life. Yeah. So he loved spending a lot of time with them. He would come and take them out on weekends and take them away to music concerts. Even music concerts, he would take them there. So he spent a lot of time.
What are you doing?
He'd go and play golf, and he'll take the girls just to driving range and hit a couple of balls.
Yeah.
Or take them swimming. So they miss him immensely.
Yeah.
They thought he was a big part of their lives. My youngest son was only, he would have been 3, maybe 4, but even he still remembers my grandfather, which is amazing. Because he was the youngest, my dad spent a lot of time with him, picked him and walked around with him. So, yeah, he still remembers him. And what I do is, because of the charity work that we do, I got them all involved. My 10-year-old son, I made him go on stage in December. Chutney Chat, I made him do a speech.
Yeah.
And he does actually look like him. That's a
He
great
does.
thing. His hair is like him, his confidence is like him. So sometimes looking at him, I thought, God, that's just like my dad.
Wow.
So something always just kind of passed through. And then, obviously, the future generation to come, I think it's more like I remember my grandfather. He passed away very young as well. But throughout my dad's time, he'd always explain to us what a pivotal role your grandfather played in the community, setting up the first mosque in Birmingham. I heard a lot from the community about him. He died in 1983, but people still remember him.
Wow.
So if you do good work, people will always remember you, and your blood will always remember you. I think that's important. I mean, my own kids know about my grandfather because I tell them about him. I said the great work that he did. So it's up to you as parents to tell the stories about your own family, your bloodline. I think that's so important because that's your identity right there.
Yeah.
Right?
My last question.
You want me to guess what it is?
The fun. Go on then.
No, please.
The final tribute. What message or tribute would you like to give to those who admired and loved your father?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is I'm very grateful to them. I'm very thankful to them. It's not just me who keeps telling people about a great person that he was. I get phone calls every single day. Just this week gone, on Wednesday, I had a gentleman turn up to my office, a very old friend of my father, and telling me about all the great work, what a great person that my dad was. And I know for a fact that my dad was very proud of his friends, very proud of his community. And I'm just thankful that they're also helping keep his legacy alive. I'm grateful to them because I've tried to keep in contact with as many friends of my father's as I possibly can. I don't want to lose that kind of touch or connection with them. But for the generations who still have their parents, you guys don't know how lucky you are. Cherish your parents, cherish your mother, your father, cherish them both, spend as much time as you can, learn from them, serve them, and just be very, very grateful. I'm really thankful to everybody. I'm thankful to all these friends. I'm thankful to my friends. I'm thankful to my network. I'm thankful to the organisation he was committed to, gave a lot of time to, because I still keep in contact with all these people, and all I hear is great things.
That's nice. Well, Amer, it's been absolute pleasure knowing more about your father, and obviously people who don't know or never heard of your father, now they will hear about your father, and all the good work that he's done hopefully through this podcast.
Inshallah.
And like I said earlier, it's the first podcast that we've done that we've invited a guest and not talk about him. But obviously, there was a bigger agenda behind.
Of course
that,
there is.
so
And,
alhamdulillah.
I'm very grateful, Nasser, and I thank you and I thank your team for giving me the opportunity to talk about my father again. I could talk about him for the next 5-6 years if you want me to, no problem. But it's just nice to be given the chance to remember the great man.
It's a pleasure, ours.
God bless you for the great work that you've done, and I hope that people can kind of learn something.
Yeah.
If they didn't know my father, who he was now, and the sacrifices he made, and the
importance of sacrifices as well.
100%. Without sacrifice, you're not going to achieve anything. You've got to sacrifice something, and we saw the sacrifices that our parents, not just my father, but our parents make, and appreciate them. Appreciate your parents.
Yeah,
nothing but falter.
On that note, Amer, thank you very much
Nasser,
for your time.
An absolute honor, pleasure. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.